In the headlines of VTV News, e-commerce platforms widen Vietnamese products' access to global market. Let's learn more about the first lung transplant patient of Vietnam. How is he 2 years after his lung transplant? And later on in our world news, Thai party's reaction over election results.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello, it's 3 p.m. local time and you're tuning in for 30 minutes of VTV News broadcast live from Hanoi. Top news of the hour. State-owned People's Credit Funds, a type of credit institution focusing on people in rural areas to help them escape poverty and avoid dependence on loan sharks, will be merged, acquired or dissolved to ensure the safety of Vietnam's finance and banking system. This plan is part of a directive released last week by Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc with the aim of enhancing the operational effectiveness of the country's People's Credit Funds. Under the directive, he requires the State Bank of Vietnam to enhance the supervision as well as assessment and classification of the funds, so bold measures can be taken to deal with several poorly performing People's Credit Funds in some locations. He also asked relevant ministries and agencies in cities and provinces nationwide to implement measures to restructure the funds according to the project on restructuring credit institutions. The state government is focusing on the establishment of People's Credit Funds in remote and rural areas, which lack access to banking services. From the beginning of the year to March the 19th, the total value of goods imported to and exported from Vietnam reached $100 billion, an increase of more than 6% over the same period last year. According to data recently announced by the General Department of Customs, export turnover in the first half of March increased by more than $1 billion compared to the end of February. Notably, many key commodity groups increased by double digits, such as telephones and components, textiles, computers, electronic products and components, wood and wood products, vehicles, and their accessories. China has been increasing domestic manufacturing of various products, even those with Vietnamese trademarks such as char fish or pangasius. A Vietnamese flagship seafood can now be raised in China at much lower cost. As China is the biggest importer for Vietnamese agro produce, this requires Vietnam to find a new approach to the Chinese market.
China is a targeted market for all countries in the world. According to this enterprise, Vietnamese exports to China will diminish over the next 2 years if exporters fail to meet requirements from this demanding market.
They are setting new requirements in traceability, food quarantines, and so on. We need to provide information in terms of growing areas, distributors, and more. They are within our abilities, but Chinese partners usually give us short notice. Therefore, we need to be on high alert.
For shrimp, the total export turnover to China was $600 million. Raising the figures to $1 billion is achievable if we can raise shrimp standards.
China has handled some smuggling cases of poor quality shrimp lacking origin indicators. Therefore, China must be identified as a market with high quality requirements and no longer as an easy market.
This 1.4 billion people market is a gateway to other markets as it owns large distribution groups. Therefore, we must seek official trade with China. Now, 8 Vietnamese fruits are available for official export to China. We need to cooperate with Chinese partners to control, guide, and structure goods in accordance with modern trade regulations.
China has officially applied quality management and origin standards for imported agricultural products. This is considered a technical barrier for Vietnamese agro produce to compete.
Vietnam is a land of opportunity for e-commerce companies because of its young population, high internet penetration rate, and climbing smartphone penetration rates. Cross-border e-commerce can be seen as a crucial channel for local exporters. It provides them with direct access to global buyers and reduces the costs involved in building a supply chain and setting up offices in destination markets. But how can Vietnam make use of e-commerce channels to promote exports? What are the challenges for companies in this constantly evolving market? We'll find out in this week's Vietnam in Close-Up.
According to statistics from Google, it is estimated that 3.2 million Vietnamese users annually shop online. It is estimated that about 30% of Vietnam's population will engage in online shopping by 2020, with per capita purchasing values reaching $350 per year. With a growth rate of over 25% per year, Vietnam's e-commerce market has been attractive to big foreign players such as Amazon and Alibaba. The move is set to open many opportunities for Vietnamese enterprises to export their products via e-commerce channels.
I think this is the biggest opportunity for Vietnamese companies. Firms do not need to export exclusively Vietnamese products. They can also export US products to France or from China to the US. E-commerce, especially cross-border trade, can open equal opportunities for Vietnamese firms with other rivals in the world.
Meanwhile, since 2018, the two largest e-commerce players from the United States and China, namely Amazon and Alibaba, have been busy seeking supply sources in Vietnam. The move is set to create fierce competition for Vietnamese e-commerce enterprises. These domestic firms wasted no time coming up with new business strategies in the context of growing pressure from foreign rivals. Senda company is investing over $50 million in human resources because the company wants to triple the number of users compared to last year.
In order to serve the tripled number of customers compared to last year, it is obvious that the product must triple its performance. It places great pressure on the software development team as well as the online marketing team, forcing us to look for people working in other companies and compete directly with those companies.
Two foreign-based e-commerce enterprises with the greatest reach in the market, Shopee and Lazada, have logistics strategies. Shopee says it will increase the number of delivery partners in Vietnam, while Lazada continues to pour money into completing its logistics ecosystem.
First, we need to develop faster and more efficient shipping. Second, we will diversify products, especially high-end products. We will work more with big brands to help consumers gain access to genuine products and good guarantees.
On the other hand, Vietnamese export enterprises, especially SMEs, are facing many challenges in terms of the language barrier and market insight when exporting to foreign markets. Technological solutions are becoming increasingly popular with export firms to improve their sales and market penetration.
Vietnamese companies, including mine, experience a number of barriers when we export to the U.S. market. First is how to choose the right products for the U.S. market. Secondly is how to improve sales on Amazon and create better access with customers. Third, we use Facebook marketing, automation marketing, Instagram, and tools on Amazon to analyze customers' demand, behavior, trend on Amazon and in the U.S.
The solutions we and other companies offer is how to incorporate all steps in one platform, so they can sell their products through only this platform. In the US, that is also the solution for the future to help companies gain better access to foreign markets.
Experts believe that it is crucial for firms to make the right decisions, choosing suitable products to sell in specific markets.
Therefore, firms need to do market research by learning the culture of destination markets. Then they can make typical products to sell them on Amazon or eBay instead of continuing selling the products they are producing. So the strategy is to learn about foreign markets and suitable products.
Experts believe to win the e-commerce game, companies need strong teams with skilled personnel, a good knowledge of foreign markets, along with good marketing strategy and access to updated technology in order to fuel cross-border exports through e-commerce in the coming time.
Moving on to other news, Vietnamese laws prescribe that foreign tour guides must have international certificates while operating in Vietnam. However, many of them are going against regulations. The phenomenon is becoming more popular despite being illegal. A report from Ho Chi Minh City.
At tourism hotspots in Ho Chi Minh City, foreign tourist groups are not a rare scene. They are accompanied by professional tour guides who interpret in Russian, Korean, Chinese, English, and more. But none of them wear cards as prescribed.
These unregistered foreign guides are not allowed to provide interpretations at public places like this. We have Vietnamese tour guides already who are well trained and better understand the local culture and history.
According to a representative of Ho Chi Minh City Department of Tourism, dozens of violations have been detected and corrected.
Foreign tour guides working at Vietnamese scenic spots are not allowed by Vietnamese law. We will strengthen inspections to check and supervise their activities to prevent situations from occurring.
In only 1 hour, the area surrounding the Notre Dame Cathedral welcomed 10 foreign tourist groups with unregistered guides. No one can be sure they are giving correct information to our tourists.
And before we move to the next part of VTV News, let's check out how the Vietnam đồng is weighed against other currencies in the world market today. Coming up next, let's learn more about the boy with first lung transplant in Vietnam. And later on, Vietnamese culture introduced in France. Lý Trương Bình is a boy born with an extra finger and toe and a fatal illness. When his life was almost endangered, the boy was rescued by doctors and became the first lung transplant patient of Vietnam. How is he 2 years after his lung transplant? The following report has the answer.
The 9-year-old boy looks a bit short compared with his companions of the same age. However, he's free from illness now, which was beyond his reach 2 years ago. At that time, the 7-year-old has struggled all his life with bronchiectasis.
He was 7 years old, but only weighed 8 to 9 kilograms. He had not attended school yet. Due to his innate bronchiectasis, he was usually short of breath. His lungs were full of liquid and made a pus. He usually suffered respiratory failure, and his heart started to get worse.
For being to live on, only a lung transplant could help, but there had never been a lung transplant in Vietnam. Therefore, despite of the full funding of the surgery, his family members still did not want the transplant to take place.
All my relatives suggested to me to not give him surgery. He was born with an extra finger and toe, and none of them wanted such a child to live on.
2 years after the lung transplant, Bing has gained weight. He goes through monthly checkups to detect any problems. 3 times a day, he takes medicine to avoid rejection.
Previously, he was only active for 2 to 3 minutes, then become fatigued and wheeze a lot. Now his conditions have become much better.
In order to ensure his regular checkups, the Vietnam Military Medical University gave him free accommodations and will pay for related checkups until he is 18 years old. Bing's mother has been given a job while Bing can go to school. A dream has come to his family.
This morning, the new branch of Bạch Mai Hospital was inaugurated, serving the demands of 1,500 patients per day. This is a general hospital with 1,000 beds on an area of 123,000 square meters and capable of providing treatment for serious cardiovascular and respiratory diseases as well as cancer. People with serious illnesses in Vietnam's northern provinces will no longer have to travel to a central hospital for treatment. Designed by foreign units, these two modern hospitals are built on a patient-friendly approach that creates comfort and positive impacts on patients' recovery time. 50 years ago, American soldiers raided My Lai village, Sơn Tịnh district, Quảng Ngãi province, and killed more than 500 unarmed civilians, mostly women, elderly people, and children. An exhibition about the My Lai massacre was recently held in New York City, the United States, to commemorate the victims and to help Americans have a clearer understanding of the event. We have a report from VTV's correspondent in New York.
7 a.m. March the 16th, 1968. After a string of bullets cleared the way, American soldiers from Charlie Company landed in My Lai. Commander Ernest Medina ordered them to shoot everything that moves. In just 4 hours, almost all of My Lai village had been eradicated. More than 500 people were killed, most of them women, the elderly, and children. The U.S. military did everything to cover up this incident. It was not until the end of 1969 that the case was uncovered through the pictures of photographer Ronald Hobel.
I think there was a lot of talk about the kinds of things that were happening in Vietnam. People were hearing about it, but that when the massacre was exposed, that first when we just had the news stories, just the text, nobody believed it. But when we had the pictures that Haberle took, what could you do, right? So, and I think it gave a big boost to the anti-war movement because we said we were over there winning hearts and minds.
More than 40 information boards with pictures have been arranged in chronological order. Dozens of books and documentaries have been created to help people to better understand the My Lai massacre and the American war in Vietnam.
Doing exhibits like this can certainly help us heal our wounds. I think it's also very important. I know that a lot of American soldiers have gone to Vietnam to do their own acts of forgiveness.
The exhibition has a private space for people to light candles and write prayers for the victims of the My Lai massacre.
French Language Weekend is one of the events to celebrate International Francophonie Day. The event was held in Ypres, Paris on Saturday and Sunday. Vietnam joined the event and left a good impression. Let's hear more in the following.
The event attracted the participation of representatives from 32 countries. Many activities were held to introduce their cuisine, craftsmanship, and cultural performances. The Vietnamese Culture Center in France organized activities introducing Vietnam in the event through many interesting cultural stories.
This is a chance to reveal the many things to discover in Vietnam, a country with a rich culture, and we are proud of it.
There was an exhibition to introduce the beauty of Vietnamese seas and islands incorporated with Francophone Actuality magazine. A special journal was introduced showing the legal rights of Vietnam concerning the Paracel and Spratly archipelagos.
People are usually reluctant when speaking about this issue, as it is quite complicated. However, we have to acknowledge that these two islands belonged to Vietnam in the past. Therefore, we organized this event to tell the world that these two islands belong to Vietnam.
The event is a good chance for Vietnam to introduce its culture to France and the world.
According to Reuters, Hội An Memories, which is managed by Gami Theme Park, is an outdoor cultural spectacle that started from humble beginnings in central Vietnam's ancient town of Hội An. It has now grown into a global phenomenon. The news agency also added that the show features cultural performances to promote Hoi An's rich history and culture. Since they started less than a year ago, the 500 performers in the show have already attracted 500,000 visitors from around the world, with visitor numbers rising from an initial 50 per night to 1,000 within a year's time. Vietnamese officials are using this successful show as an example for future tourism projects. An incomplete movie by director Leung Ding-Dũng will be shown at the 22nd Tallinn Black Nights Film Festival between November the 16th and December the 2nd in Tallinn, Estonia. The movie, titled Drowsy City, will compete in the Works in Progress category. The winning project will get a prize of 10,000 euros to complete the final production stage and boost publicity for the film. Dũng film features a man who lives in an abandoned house. His life is simple until a group of strange men and one woman move to the area. The movie is adapted from a novel written by the director under the same name in 2008. Dũng said the movie had a low budget and aimed to participate in international film festivals before its scheduled June 2019 screening in Vietnam. Coming up next, Thai party's reaction over election results. And later on, Trump cleared of conspiring with Russia. People in Thailand are heading to the polls to choose 500 members of the lower house of parliament. Around 90,000 polling stations opened at 8 a.m. local time. This is the first general election since growing anti-government protests were followed by a military coup in 2014. Let's take a look in the following.
With 94% of the votes counted Sunday night, the pro-military Palang Pracharat party inched ahead with 7.69 million votes, while the main opposition Pheu Thai party, which is aligned with ousted former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, receiving 7.2 million votes. More than 50 million people were eligible to vote, but turnout was reportedly low for Thailand at just 66%.
Graciously offered his appreciation to the team here, and likewise I also presented my appreciation.
Former Thai Prime Minister Abhisit Vejjajiva stepped down as leader of Democratic Party after his poor showing in a Sunday general election.
I was responsible as a leader. I resigned as Democratic Party leader.
To ensure fairness and transparency, Thailand has invited observers from 14 countries and territories to monitor election activities in the country.
According to a summary of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report submitted to Congress on Sunday by the Attorney General William Barr, U.S. President Donald Trump's campaign did not conspire with Russia during the 2016 election. The report summary did not draw a conclusion as to whether Mr. Trump had illegally obstructed justice, not exonerating the president. The report marked the end of a 22-month Trump-Russia investigation that President Donald Trump's campaign conspired or coordinated with Russia to interfere in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. British Prime Minister Theresa May is facing new challenges to her leadership the day after protesters packed the streets of London to demand a second referendum on Britain's exit from the European Union. According to the media in the UK, 11 cabinet ministers plan to tell May to resign so a caretaker leader can be put in her place to kickstart the stalled Brexit process. Two of the people mentioned as possible successors are Cabinet Office Minister David Lidington and Treasury Chief Philip Hammond. However, the two candidates stated that they still support British Prime Minister Theresa May and that this time is not the right time to replace the head of government. South Korea will continue to promote inter-Korean economic projects with North Korea, despite Pyongyang's withdrawal of all its representatives from the liaison office in Kangsong City. This is a decision announcement made by South Korea's Unification Ministry. According to this ministry, the South Korean government may propose to organize inter-Korean dialogue on inter-Korean economic projects, including road and railroad connections between the two sides. Also, according to this ministry, the military communication line is the only dialogue channel between the two countries, and the line is still in operation. Now let's take a look at the weather update. And that's it for our VTV News. Thank you very much for watching. To rewatch our program, you can log on to vtv4.vtv.vn or youtube.com/vtv4go. Goodbye for now.